Hello, my friends. I am Bee, and this is Bee's Intuition. Today we're going to do reading. I laugh because yesterday, I don't want to talk about yesterday, but I recorded for definitely over an hour, and it was such a good reading. But then my phone died, and it didn't save any of it. So this is pretty much take two on that reading, and I'm trying so hard to keep it together. I've been trying since last night when I realized. But sometimes we have to just accept that things happen and we may not understand why. But that doesn't mean that we'll never know why. Maybe eventually, and this has typically been my experience, I figure out why things happen in hindsight. So maybe in the future, or maybe after I record this, I'll be like, you know what? This take is so much better than the one I did. And you want to know what I think the difference is? I think that Spirit wants me to be outside for this reading so that I'm more grounded with my energy. Because reflecting on it, I was kind of hyped up on caffeine and not super grounded with the messages that I was receiving. They were coming through really clear, and I thought they were a lot of like very powerful messages, but I feel like Spirit wants me to be more grounded when I share this reading. So that's what I assume is Spirit's plan with all of this. So I release control and I trust in Spirit that everything is working out exactly as it should. All right, so the theme of this reading is how are you changing people's minds? It's going to be rather open-ended because we're going to see what comes through, whether that is changing people's minds about you, about how they view the world. We shall see. Let's just dive right in, shall we? Okay. Please and thank you, Spirit. How is the collective changing people's minds? Please and thank you, Spirit. How is the collective changing people's minds during this time? Please and thank you, Spirit. And during this time is just whenever you see this. There's no particular time frame intended. Let's see now. What do we have? Oh, how interesting. Is that one or two? One of these cards feels thicker, but I guess that's just me. Must be me because I'm super thick. No, I'm just kidding. Well, anyway. We have the Page of Swords, Justice, Five of Pentacles, and then the bottom of the deck. It's a beautiful day today. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad that I was able to come outside to do this. And I'm starting early enough that hopefully by the time I finish, there will still be daylight. Okay. 10 of Wands at the bottom of the deck. Let's just dive right into clarifications. So I'm already actually seeing a little bit of overlap from yesterday's reading. The Page of Swords and Justice were prevalent themes in that one. So I think that there'll be some of those messages probably shared in this one. Anyways, starting with that Page of Swords, let's start to clarify. Please and thank you, Spirit. How does the collective... Okay, that feels like it wants to come out. How does the collective change people's minds? Or how are they changing people's minds during this time? Please and thank you. With that Page of Swords. Can you clarify that Page of Swords for us? Please and thank you, Spirit. How is the collective changing people's minds with that Page of Swords? How interesting. Anything else for that Page of Swords, please and thank you, Spirit. Okay, let's see what came out. Very fascinating. Okay, so clarifying that Page of Swords, we have The Queen of Pentacles coming out like that. The Fool card came out in the reverse. Very interesting. Eight of Pentacles upright. Bottom of the deck. Knight of Cups. Yeah. Oh, I see. I see. So the Page of Swords. I see the Page of Swords typically as a very curious character, but also one that is an observer. You may be a people watcher, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I don't think that you're looking at people with judgment. I think that you're just curious. You're probably curious about humans and human behavior. Maybe even psychology, because it feels like something with the brain. But yeah, I feel like you're curious about people and how they choose to live their lives. You like to kind of watch everything. You take in a lot of information. But at the same time, I don't think you're very vocal about the information that you take in. So maybe a lot of people underestimate the amount of information that you take in. I've noticed that sometimes people that are a little bit more on the shy side, or, you know, they don't really talk a lot, sometimes they can be misunderstood. Yeah, because somebody that's quiet is very easy to project onto. You can pretty much project anything onto somebody that's quiet without any evidence to support those claims, but that's kind of how humans work. They tend to project things onto people that they don't really know, judging a book by its cover, so to speak. But yeah, you take in a lot of information about what you see. You keep a lot of it to yourself. I don't think you're afraid to talk, because the Page of Swords, you know, the swords have to do with communication. So it's like if you're given the opportunity and you feel comfortable and you feel like the timing is right to speak on something, I think you do. And you probably speak with some sense of confidence. Yeah. It feels like you also may be one of those people that, like, you like to only talk on what you know. So maybe the things you do talk about, you're very knowledgeable about. You've learned, with that Queen of Pentacles coming out the way that it did, you have learned to, I think that you're a very kind, giving individual, very down to earth, very grounded most of the time, very kind and considerate of others. And I think that you tend to be a giver. But I think you have learned boundary setting. And this may have been an uncomfortable sort of lesson for you, to kind of realize that not everybody is deserving of your energy, of the things that you have to offer, which I think you have plenty of things to offer. Because not only are you a curious person and somebody that's very knowledgeable and has a lot going on inside their brain, but you also have stability. And either you're attracting abundance or you are abundant. You have a lot to offer other people, but it's like through situations with others, interacting with others in the past, and maybe in the present as well, you've learned that sometimes you got to protect those valuable things within yourself from people that either want to misuse it or want to take advantage of it or use it for selfish desires. This is a random side note, but there was just like a little buggy flying by, and sometimes if I see like little bugs flying by, but like they're moving so fast I can't really identify what they are. Sometimes I just like think to myself, oh, a little fairy. um, that may, be something that applies to you in some way. Maybe you, I don't know, maybe you believe in fairies. Maybe you believe in magic. Maybe you like to lean into the things that are mystical, magical, things that people don't really believe in. You might believe in the things that other people don't really tend to believe in. Because although you have that logical mind, I think that there's a sense of whimsy to you. Um, Also, people may look at you and think you're a fairy. Maybe that's something to do with your aesthetic, or maybe that's just how you show up, is in like maybe a very, maybe like a youthful kind of carefree sort of attitude. The Fool card coming out in the reverse is very interesting to me, especially because it's clarifying the Page of Swords. So I get this message about you like to watch people before beginning something with them. That could be specifically in terms of romantic relationships, or maybe friendships, or really any attachment that you form with another person. You do not rush into these things. You may also listen very, very well to your intuition, and you let that guide you. You have a lot of like loyalty, you have a lot of like really beautiful qualities, and you would make like an ideal partner or a friend, or just like a support in someone's life. Yeah, you do have this like pretty optimistic attitude, and you don't really fear the unknown like other people may. But that could also be something you've kind of learned throughout your life, is like, fear can hold us back if we listen to it, or if we live our lives according to our fears. I don't think that you really are ruled by your fears like that. Maybe at one point you were, but not anymore. But because of this, there's something about knowing what you have to offer and protecting that. Because I think that you are the Fool upright, but with it coming out in the reverse, I feel like that you embody such a beautiful energy, or that you have the potential to, maybe for the right kind of people. But it's like you have to keep that under lock and key, until people show up in a way that proves that they are worthy of seeing this side to you, or that they are, they have good intentions for you. You really do have a lot to offer other people. But in terms of how you're changing people's minds, I see already that you change people's minds when it comes to navigating relationships with others. And this is just relationships in general, it doesn't have to be specifically romance. You show people that sometimes it's necessary to hold things back, especially when you're first getting to know someone. Or yeah, specifically that, it feels, because there's something here about like you want to watch someone. Oh, I see now that like Page of Swords energy, because it's like you would like to observe people, maybe even from a distance at first, to kind of gauge who they really are. Because maybe if you directly interact with them, they may shift their personality in some way to make themselves more favorable potentially. Yeah, because it's like people on a deep level. You've had a lot of experiences with others. And I feel like you've learned a lot through people watching. You're probably somebody that can catch fibs or if somebody's like playing up certain aspects of their personality, or if they're trying to schmooze people, if they're kind of putting on airs. It feels like you are really good at gauging that. You're not somebody to be like calling out people on the spot for that, but it's like, okay, I'm going to take a mental note of that and keep that in my mind for later on, perhaps. You watch how people move in their own lives. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it's like you watch the moves that people make in their own lives. I don't know how else to word that. Well, I think that people move in a very different way than you do, and maybe that's part of it. You kind of don't understand why certain people act the way that they do, or why they do the things that they do. You're probably a very moral person, and I don't mean to say like, oh, you're perfect, your morals are incomparable, nobody else has morals like you, but like, no, like, you're a human, you're gonna make mistakes, you're gonna maybe have moments where you compromise your morals for whatever reason. There are a million reasons that we do that, right? To 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 just get through the day sometimes, depending on who we're around, who we're interacting with, who we have to interact with. Um, but I think overall you like to be fair. You like to give people the opportunity maybe to show you who they are, and maybe even correct mistakes that they've made. Maybe you allow people that space to do that. You try really hard not to get emotionally invested into people off the bat, though, which is probably smart and wise. And I imagine that's probably something you've learned through your life experiences. Because I almost feel like maybe you were a little bit foolish in the past, where you kind of just trusted anyone. You kind of believed everyone. Okay, I'm going to wait until this motorcycle passes because it's very distracting. I do think that you may have been a little bit foolish in the past, where you kind of just were, a bit naive. You kind of just assumed everyone had, best intentions for any given situation. But through your life experiences, you found out that that is not the case. And there are certain people who either consciously or unconsciously may not have best intentions in mind when doing things or when acting or interacting with other people. You're a very hard worker. And maybe you also realize that relationships with others take a lot of hard work. You can't just jump into a relationship with anyone. You have to really test the waters first. And there has to be something to stand upon, some sort of foundation between the two of you before you jump into anything. There is this space, I feel, with you, especially when you're first interacting with another person. It's a bit of like detachment. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that is maybe healthy, because you are protecting the valuable parts to yourself. You're not letting yourself become emotionally manipulated by other people. You set a really good example of what it looks like to be responsible with relationships. It's like people see that you have a lot to offer other people, but you're super cautious when it comes to expressing these things or sharing these things with others, opening up to others completely. I also feel like you're very experienced when it comes to relationships with others and interactions with others in general. You've been there, done that. You have a lot of experience. You may even be very talented when it comes to interacting with others. You're very charming, perhaps. And this is through practice. This is, these are skills that you've gained through practicing. So that makes me think that you probably weren't born with these social skills. You could have even been shy and quiet in the past or growing up. But you have, I'm getting the word perfected. Maybe you've perfected your social skills. So most people that interact with you, they find you rather charming, or there's something likable about you. You also give off this very sturdy energy. Queen of Pentacles and this would definitely indicate that. This sturdy, steady, secure energy. There is self-knowledge with that. And I feel like your self-knowledge is very unshakable. You know who you are and what you stand for and what you don't stand for. You stand behind that. You are a person of integrity. And I think you do like to work with others. But it's like you want to work with people that are open to, working with others as well. Not like people that are completely selfish and self-centered. So you probably test the waters first, but overall, I think that you like to collaborate with other people. You like to work with other people, interact with other people, especially those that are in your alignment or in alignment with you. The motorcycle's coming back. Oh boy. Yeah. There's also this feeling of like relationships haven't always been easy for you. You've had to learn a lot of things to make them easier. Okay. All right. And then bottom of the deck, the Knight of Cups. You show up and it's actually interesting. Yeah, because it's like you do have that sense of detachment, that space when you're getting to know someone. You have this very practical, stable mindset. You're reasonable, you're logical. You are guarded, but not in a bad way. Just in a very responsible way, I would say. And it feels like maybe the reason why you have that space in between yourself and other people at first, and why you kind of don't let just anyone in, is because you know what you have. You have a very beautiful heart. You have so much love to give another person. And this isn't just in romantic relationships. I think you give love to your family. I think you give love to your friends, your community. You very much care about other people. And you know how important love is, how necessary it is for life and to make life enjoyable, right? Love is so necessary. And I feel like, especially in this day and age, we can sometimes feel like the world lacks a lot of love. And so it's like, as much as you are here for expressing love, sharing your love with the world, you're very cautious about it as well, because you know it can be taken advantage of. You probably have been taken advantage of in the past. But this is all so complex and interesting to me, because it's almost like people, after seeing you, and maybe the way you live your life, the way that you act, the way that you behave with other people, they see you being very cautious around other people and interactions with other people. But it's not because you're lacking in any way. If anything, it's because you are, I'm getting the phrase overqualified, but You know, you have so much going on within you, so much value within yourself, so many valuable qualities. And you know this, and you hold out for the right people. So maybe people at first glance may think that you don't have emotions, that you're not very openly loving, because maybe you have that space at first. You have that time of reading people, getting to know a person before you show that to everyone. And maybe it's even specific to certain people. Maybe there are just certain people that you just don't feel comfortable opening up to, and therefore you don't. Whereas there's other people that maybe make you feel more comfortable opening up, and then you do. It feels very much like a very case by case basis, but it's so responsible. It's so like well thought out. You make people realize that maybe they don't put enough thought into their relationships with others and their interactions with others. Sure, you may have this sort of calculated, is dissonance the word I'm looking for? You may have a sort of strategic slash calculated sort of on the surface appearance, but it's like it's so much deeper than that though. And it's not like you're calculating in a way that's ego based or selfish or entitled or anything like that. No. I also think that you are a dreamer. You know what the world can become if we show up as our best selves. We put our best foot forward. You're a really good example of what that looks like. You're a very responsible person, and you do protect yourself, but it's not without a purpose, and it's not for just, no reason. There's like a reason behind why you do the things that you do. And people may not realize that at first, but maybe the more they get to know you, they start to realize these things. I'm going to see what's underneath that Knight of Cups. 10 of Cups. Okay. Yeah, you got it going on when it comes to your heart. You got a heart of gold, and you know that you can make a partner or whoever, not even just a partner, but friends, family, community. You can make a lot of happiness happen. You can make very fulfilling relationships with other people. You can even fulfill other people's dreams. And it's probably because of the qualities of your heart. And you're probably very intuitive as well. So you probably are good at gauging what somebody desires. It's almost like you can read minds, and you kind of can read these people and their souls. Like, what is this soul craving? And how can I give that to this person? And I think maybe that could have been your past experiences with relationships, but unfortunately, not everybody deserves that sort of customizable experience. And I feel like you've realized that. I feel like you know what you have going on. Because, like, I think that I don't know what the word is. I feel like we don't appreciate enough the value of emotional stability, of giving love to other people. I think that as a society, we typically don't value those things enough, but they make a big difference, especially in our relationships with other people. You could have been seen as weak in the past because of your kind, loving heart. Maybe you've been called sensitive, but in that like derogatory, excuse me, way. Like they mean it as an insult. But you show up in a way that shows that it's not weak to love. It's not weak to show up as your best self and believe in the good of humanity and try to trying to be the best version of yourself possible. And it's okay to be sensitive. It can benefit you, especially if you're an intuitive. Maybe you're realizing that. Yeah. Well, that's beautiful. Okay, let's go on to the Justice card and clarify that. Please and thank you, Spirit. How is the collective changing people's minds with that Justice card? Please and thank you. How is the collective changing people's minds? That Justice card, please and thank you, Spirit. Y'all hear the, I think it's goosies, because they're not going whack whack, they're going wonk wonk. Okay. Clarifying that Justice card, we have the High Priestess, Ace of Cups, Four of Wands, bottom of the deck, Five of Swords. This is interesting to me. So I was right. You are very intuitive with that High Priestess. You're also like, you're very tapped into when it comes to the things you stand for, the things you don't stand for. What is right? What is wrong? I feel like you have a very, for the most part, not every, thing in life is so clear cut or, completely black and white, but you have a pretty good idea of what is morally wrong and what isn't, and, all of that sort of thing. I think you have a very good compass and gauge when it comes to that. You are very quiet, though. You're not an open book to a lot of people. I feel like people have to get closer to you and sort of win your trust to a degree in order for you to completely open up or to become that open book. They have to definitely tick some boxes for you, though, because that intuition, I think you're probably looking for maybe certain qualities in another person, maybe similar qualities that you have. You look for that in another person. Yeah, you're probably psychic as well. Or I feel like sometimes psychic people don't necessarily know that they're psychic. Sometimes. Because especially when you listen to your intuition, you take note on the things that spirit, the messages that spirit sends you. It's not always so clear cut, realizing that you may be psychic. But you may identify as an empath or, intuitive or sensitive in the more spiritual sense. Like you pick up on things, but you're not maybe sure why you pick up on those things. You're not always sure where these feelings are coming from. You don't always in the moment see how these things are going to be accurate later on, but eventually they do, I feel. You have a gorgeous heart. I really feel like emphasizing that here. That Ace of Cups shows me just how much love you have to give, and it's truly never ending. But that's why you have to protect it. So in the Justice card, the traditional Rider-Waite Tarot deck Justice card, she's holding a sword and the scales that are balanced. I think that you're probably a very balanced person overall. Of course, we all have our days, right? But that sword being up is coming to mind and being emphasized in my mind. I think that there's something about knowing how to defend yourself if necessary, but also there's something here about you do have your guard up around other people, but it's not for no reason. there is definitely a reason behind it. You can serve your energy. Maybe that's something that I'm picking up on, because it feels like you protect it, but it's like you're very selective with your energy. I feel like that could even create some tensions at times where people may feel like you're judging them unfairly, or maybe they get jealous that you're giving your attention, your love, whatever it is, to other people and not them. That could be something that you experience from time to time, is maybe people taking offense to that, the fact that you conserve your energy, you maybe keep to yourself, you don't say a whole lot, especially if you're uncomfortable. But you have so much love to give. I feel like you have built up a lot of love within yourself that hasn't always been there. I think that you've learned how to create your own love from within, maybe even your own light from within. There's like this source of power you have within you that is just so significant, undeniable. I think you kind of want to live out a purpose here that's in alignment with what spirit wants for you as well. You may feel like you're here to kind of do God's work in the sense of, maybe you get downloads from spirit saying like, share your heart with the world, or share love with the world, or share support with the world, or things along those lines. Share harmony, share peace, share hope, the things that spirit wants us to feel in life. Maybe you feel like you're supposed to be a source of that for others. It feels like you are put on this earth actually for balancing out energies. That's probably what that Justice card is really signifying. Because, it doesn't take very long for us to look around us and see, the pain, the darkness, the struggle of life. I think that you are here to be a light for other people. You're here to balance out the scales. You could even be somebody that grew up in a dark environment, or a dark environment, or maybe you're currently in a sort of environment where people are maybe more pessimistic, more in that darker energy. But it's like you are there so that you can provide light in the dark for others, so that people realize that life isn't just darkness and struggle. There's something else. There's something more. There is hope. There is love. There is kindness. It feels like you have a very great purpose here. People see this in you. It feels like you are destined to do something really great with your energy. I feel like people know this. They may even be slightly nosy about this, where they're like, I don't know what this person is going to do with their life, but I know it's going to be big. And I feel like maybe you have some people in the background kind of watching you, observing you, because they're maybe trying to guess your next move, or maybe they're trying to be, ahead of everyone else in terms of like figuring out why you're here, what you're doing for the world, what your purpose is. Yeah. Because like, especially with the Four of Wands, clarifying that Justice card, although like, the Four of Wands can deal with union between two people, which I do think that you're very interconnected with the collective, because you believe in the benefits of community, building community, feeding community. And you probably realize that your purpose is to work alongside other people, or to help other people in some way, interactions between yourself and others. There's that significance there. But it feels like accomplishments, because sometimes the Four of Wands can be like that celebration that follows reaching a personal milestone, perhaps. So I don't know why, but it feels like multiple different milestones you surpass, different goals you surpass. It feels like there's not just one finish line for you, there's many. And maybe they get grander and grander the further you go along on your journey. But it feels like you are here to succeed. I know that sounds probably vague and maybe a little bit strange, but that's what I'm getting here. You are meant to accomplish great things, and people see this. It's very obvious by looking at you, by interacting with you, that you're meant for great things here. You're meant for some sort of major success, but it's the kind of success that doesn't just benefit you. It benefits humanity. And I almost feel like that's why you are the one that has been chosen for this life purpose, is because you, and maybe this is through your own work, you're not as attached to the ego as maybe other people would be if they were in your position, if they were given the powers that you have, the qualities that you have. You are somebody with that pure heart, and therefore you will not abuse any position of power that you are given. You just care for the greater good in general, and it's a beautiful energy. I think you also make other people very happy, and maybe almost effortlessly so. Because I almost get this feeling of people watching you, and, even just you going about your day-to-day life, you may think like, oh, this is just my everyday routine. I'm not really doing anything that crazy. I don't know why people are watching me or, observing me. But there's just this air about you, this aura, this energy. And it's almost like people love to see you do things. I don't know if this makes any sense, because it's almost like, I don't know. And maybe I'm getting like a little bit of an underdog story here, where people love to see you succeed in life. People love to see you progress on your journey, to surpass milestones, to reach goals. I literally get this feeling like just simply seeing you. This is such an interesting energy, but literally you breathing and walking. This is going to sound so stupid and silly, but like, you are breathing, you are walking, and therefore you are living your purpose. And that makes people so happy. Just knowing that you exist, just knowing that you're in this world. Even if it's not in direct consequence to them, or, if it doesn't immediately benefit them, they're just happy that you're getting up, you're putting in the work, you don't give up, you keep going. People love to see you do you. And I feel like this may be, honestly, it feels like majority of people feel that way about you. I don't know if everyone would admit to that, because the ego does play a part in whether or not people want to admit to that. But overall, I feel like simply you living your life, going from one thing to another, even if it's just you running errands, people are just so happy that you exist and that you're in the world, because it's like they know deep down there's something special about you. They know that there is something that you're meant to do here that is significant. And you simply existing, you simply, walking, you simply breathing, you simply just showing up. People are just so ecstatic to see you. Some people may view you as an angel, but I think that that may be the, one of the extreme sides to that. Because, there's probably, people that adore you, and then there's probably people that maybe unfairly hate you. Um, and so I think that on the extreme side of the love side, they may see you as an angel or someone that's perfect, which obviously you and me know that you're probably not perfect, right? Because humans can never truly be perfect. It is part of the human condition to be imperfect. But people may kind of put you on a pedestal. People may kind of look at you through rose-colored glasses at points. But it's, I think, mostly due to the energy that you walk in and this feeling that people have, this unshakable feeling that you are doing something special. You're here for a greater purpose. There's something deeper to you. Yeah. With the Five of Swords at the bottom of the deck, that is such an interesting energy. It feels like it's in direct conflict with what I was just saying. Like, people love to see you do what you do, even if it doesn't look like much on the surface. But I think there are people too that also wish to maybe see your downfall, or don't have the best intentions for you, or maybe they get annoyed of you existing. But I would like to say that I feel like that is the minority. I think most people like you. And it's probably because, the energy you give off and the way you live your life. But, for people that haven't really healed themselves, that may be really strongly in the shadow, they find the light repelling. They find it uncomfortable. And therefore, I think some people just have a bad reaction to you. Yeah, some people may take offense to the way that you live your life. Even if you're not doing anything to them, even if you're simply minding your own business, people may take offense to you. But for some reason, that almost feels like balance. That's such a strange thing, yeah. Because it almost feels like it's balanced to a degree, because we're clarifying the Justice card, which is really all about balance. Well, it's about multiple things, but balance is a big part of it. So maybe it's like, I don't even know how to word this. Like, maybe it's kind of a good thing, I guess, that not everybody loves you, that not everybody adores you. Maybe it's to kind of keep you humble. I know that sounds maybe odd to hear, but these things do happen for a reason. If everybody loved you all the time, maybe you wouldn't be able to see certain flaws, and then work on those flaws, heal them, move past them. So I feel like there's a reason for it. And it feels like it may actually be a good thing that certain people don't like you. I don't know why. And maybe that's one of Spirit's kind of bigger picture things, where it's like we as humans don't really understand why, but maybe there is a greater reason, greater purpose to it. So this part is showing in terms of how you are changing people's minds. I think you change people's minds in terms of, what it means to live a life. And that sounds maybe strange. Maybe that sounds bizarre, but like, I think that a lot of people are stuck in a certain way of seeing the world, and you come in and you shake that up for them. but in a good way. You show up in this way that I feel like people didn't realize that people still show, like, it's kind of like that, like when somebody says, oh, I didn't think there was any good people in the world still, but there you are, kind of that feeling. Yeah. You surprise people because maybe they think that the type of person you are, the type of things you do are, these people could think that they have gone extinct, but yet here you are, a great example of it in the flesh, You may even get people from time to time that kind of are like, oh, you're so kind, or, I wish there was more people like you in the world, or something like that. But you really do try to live your life in a way that is moral, that is just, balanced. And people, I think, that just opens up people's minds, people's eyes. They become aware of like a different way of living life. And it really changes their perspectives. Yeah. I feel like you set a really good example for other people to follow. And, I'm not trying to say that you're perfect. I'm not trying to say that you never have any off days, or that you, I don't know, that, that you're not an imperfect human being like the rest of us. But overall, yeah, you set a good example. Or at least you try your best to, and that's enough, right? I think that, yeah, sometimes society tells us that doing our best isn't enough, but I think it is. And I think you think that too. Or you could. You could believe in that. I want to see what's underneath that Five of Swords. Ace of Pentacles. See, I think you live in harmony with the universe. And this isn't, I want to say that this isn't just an inherent ability or something you were born with. I think that this probably is something that you worked on. And you've grown this ability to work with the universe in a certain way. But on the surface, people may get the wrong idea here, because you are living your purpose here. You are, doing here what you were meant to do. But some people may think like, oh, these are the people that either don't understand you or don't wish to understand you, or people that are simply judging a book by its cover. They may, from the outside looking in, they may say something along the lines of, oh, the collective is just given everything. They're handed opportunities. Things aren't fair. The collective, doesn't have to work as hard as the rest of us. The collective can just breeze through life, But it's like, it's not that simple. And, these are probably people that live in a sort of victim mindset. And they probably have a specific narrative that they live by. And so they want to squeeze you into this narrative that they have already established prior to knowing you. And they try to fit you in a certain box, a certain, maybe archetype even if it's not true, because it makes their perspective more legitimized, even though it's not. These are the people that do not wish to change, do not think it's necessary to change, and they're more comfortable in their comfort zone where they're not healed, where they don't have to heal, where they don't have to improve themselves or improve on themselves or do their best. But yeah. You may have people that kind of talk a lot, like gossip about you in a negative way, or not like a lot. I think it's probably a minority, like I said, but sometimes, certain people that, even if they're in the minority, they are so loud with their assumptions, their, estimations of you, that they kind of feel like it's more than it really is. But yeah, I don't think that you let these voices of gossip or these negative energies, you don't really let them get in your way, though. You still stay focused on your path. You still keep true to your purpose and your path here. And I think there is a certain divine wisdom you have where you realize that these are people that are broken, or these are people that haven't healed yet, or, something along those lines. There's a sense of maturity I get from you. And there's an ability to see the bigger picture, whereas maybe certain people around you may not be able to see things from that perspective. And I think you understand that there are certain people that are, rather limited in some way, even if it's their own doing. You have an understanding of, I think, human behavior at this point in your life, at least for the most part. Maybe people throw you off from time to time, but, humans are complex like that. Okay, let's go on to the Five of Pentacles. Please and thank you, Spirit. Can you clarify that Five of Pentacles as to how the collective is changing people's minds? Please and thank you, Spirit. Please and thank you. Five of Pentacles. Please and thank you, Spirit. Can you clarify that Five of Pentacles? Please and thank you, Spirit. Okay. Okay. Oh my. Okay. Wow. So, clarifying that Five of Pentacles, we have the Ten of Cups, the Knight of Cups, Knight of Pentacles, Three of Cups, Six of Wands. Bottom of the deck is the Nine of Swords. So we're clarifying the Five of Pentacles. I think that you did not have a very stable foundation growing up. You may have had a lot of feelings of lack, whether that was financially or lack in experiences or lack in confidence. It feels like that early foundation was not steady and stable like it needed to be, or than it should have or could have been. But you are an amazing person because you believe in the vision of something better, even when you've only ever experienced the opposite. You are a dreamer. I think I said that at one point. But it's true. You are able to see a brighter future, and you strive towards that brighter future. You believe in what's possible. And a lot more is possible than we're societally programmed to believe. And I think you know that secret, but not everybody else knows that. Especially not everybody that's around you knows that. But I think that this is a message that you sort of preach, or you try to show people, like there's another way to live. You don't have to let your circumstances or, your roots dictate who you are or who you become. And we are more powerful as individuals than maybe we realize. You show people how it is to show up in this loving way, but you also show people what it's like to be responsible and maybe steady, consistent, making steady, consistent investments in the things that you care about, and then the positive outcome that happens as a result of that. Three of Cups. I think you inspire either your community, your friends, your family, maybe your partners. You know, the people around you, I think, get very inspired by your message, especially if they know your backstory and then they see how you're showing up now. I think it's something very beautiful, maybe even poetic. People take note of this and they wish to follow your lead. They see that if it's possible for the collective, maybe it's possible for me too. You also kind of share this message of like, there's always something to celebrate, there's always something to be grateful for. Yeah. And even the smallest little accomplishments or the things that seem maybe even slightly insignificant, they matter. They're worth enjoying, they're worth being grateful for. And, you know, it's like when you open up to the smallest things that make you happy, then you're able to fully appreciate the bigger things that come into your life. You show that to people. Like, if you can't, you know, and this I think is a thing that people sometimes say when it comes to manifesting. Like, if you can't appreciate the small things in life, how are you going to appreciate the larger blessings in life, right? And, you know, sometimes those generalizations aren't always accurate because, you know, there's always nuance and complexity to these things. But, you know, overall, maybe that's a helpful message. Six of Wands. You're seen as somebody that started from nothing and gained everything. You are seen as somebody that is incredibly confident. You're seen as somebody that is incredibly successful, incredibly likable. You have many qualities that people can admire about you. And it's like those qualities get even stronger, even more significant when people realize your backstory or they hear you talk about your backstory. Because I really do think that you started with nothing and you built it into something. And either you are already in this success and you've become successful already, or this is what people like see in you. Either you're living this success or you will be. And it's because of how you live your life. And it's how you strive for a better future for yourself, how you dream of a better future for yourself, how you push past fears and mental blockages. Because look at this bottom of the deck with the Nine of Swords. You probably have struggled with mental health. Maybe you currently still do. And there's no shame in that, you know? And I think you may realize there's no shame in that. And if anything, sharing your experience about those struggles helps empower others who are also struggling. You know, especially when we deal with mental health problems, we can sometimes think that we are the only ones that experience these things. You know, that, you know, people just wouldn't understand, or, you know, they just don't get it. But it's like you have, and it's not that you don't experience mental health issues from time to time. I think that it's rather you have learned coping skills and maybe ways to get through those more difficult times. And you don't let your fear drive you or dictate how you live your life. I feel like you could have been your biggest blockage to your own success for a long time, or maybe a short period of time. But it feels like it was definitely something in your past where you may have realized that you overthought or like, you may be sort of prone to overthinking things. thinking yourself into circles, so that you either don't know what to do or you just don't do things that you want to do. You convince yourself out of doing certain things that may be beneficial for yourself, but that feels like a past energy. I feel like even if you are still struggling with the same sort of things, you have learned how to push past them or to, cope in order to get to the next day or the next chapter. Yeah. And I feel like if you're open with that, that's going to inspire many people. Yeah. I want to see what's underneath that Nine of Swords. Five of Swords. Yeah, you were very mistreated in your past specifically, and then it led to trauma and mental anguish. Maybe you did at one point, and this would make sense because if you're growing up in this sort of environment, it's very easy to internalize how other people treat you, especially if you're like developing into a human still, a child. How do you not take that personally? How do you not internalize the way in which people treat you growing up in an unfair way, a cruel way? It's only natural that you would build narratives around that and what other people's treatment of you means about you. Your backstory is very, I want to say harrowing. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but it's truly an inspiration to so many. It really is, because it's like you know what it's like to go through the depths, the darkness of life. But the greatest part about you is that you came out the other side. You kept going, and now you're on the other side of it. And maybe you don't realize this yet, or maybe this is something that you're going to be coming into, but the energy becomes so much lighter. And maybe it has become lighter, or you're going to be coming into a time where it is much lighter, and people will see this in you. I'm curious actually what's underneath that Five of Swords. Ace of Pentacles. We saw that before. I want to see what's underneath that. Nine of Wands. Yeah. Yeah. Even the people that said they wanted to help you throughout your life hurt you instead. Like the people you should have been able to depend on added to feelings of lack, insecurities, negative mindsets, negative narratives about yourself. Yeah. You had to have your own back because other people didn't have your back growing up, is what I feel. But through doing that, though, you've also gained a lot of like self-confidence and self-love, because you realize at the end of the day that even when nobody else is there for you, you're still there for you. And you're so much bigger than these past experiences, and you're so much more than the way people treated you in the past. And maybe a part of you knows this. Yeah, knows this now. 10 of Wands at the bottom of this deck. I feel like maybe certain people compare themselves to you. Oh, and that last part of the reading, before I go into this, in terms of how you're shifting people's minds or changing people's minds, you're showing people that in changing their minds about how you begin your life is not necessarily how you continue or what your future looks like. Your past does not have to dictate your future or even your present. That is what you are changing people's minds about. Because maybe a lot of people around you believe that, if you're born poor, you'll die poor, or, if you are born with nothing, you stay with nothing for your whole life. And, it's sad, but I think, unfortunately, probably way too many people live their life according to that. But you are this example of the opposite, and that changes people's perspectives. But 10 of Wands at the bottom of the deck, I feel almost like so many people feel overburdened, and they may think that you simply just float through life and you don't have a lot on your plate. But I think you do. I think you have a lot of responsibilities, a lot of things that challenge you or prove to be an obstacle in your path, or, make things unnecessarily difficult. Like, you're just as burdened at it as anyone else. I think it's really just a matter of their perspective, because they feel like they're in chaos, whereas you have some sense of clarity and maybe organization with your many things going on internally. I want to see what's underneath that. Strength, yes. It's almost because you just show up in this way that is so strong and capable. It feels like even if they were to know that you have all of the same burdens as they do, complications, all those things, it's almost like because you are who you are, some people may assume like that, well, it's easy for you because you're super strong, courageous, you have all these good qualities about you. But it's like, it probably hasn't always been that way. And more than likely it hasn't. But also maybe that's what is changing here. People's perspectives of you changing here. Maybe they, come to find out later on, oh, they do have a lot on their plate. Oh, they are, maybe stressed out, but they don't act like it. Or, maybe they have things going wrong in their life, but they don't post about it or share it openly. You're very tapped into the divine as well. People see that. And I feel like maybe they even think that you use that to help better yourself or to help make this chaos less intense. I'm curious what's underneath the Strength card. I'm going to just peek. 9 of Wands. Ooh, we had 2 9 of Wands at the bottom of the deck. So, people, I feel like, if people are real with themselves, they will realize that you haven't had it easy, or that you're not just like completely free and nothing ever impacts you, or, nothing unfair ever happens to you. Like, people, if they look deep enough, if they look close enough, they will see that you've been through it. But you use those past experiences in a way that helps you go further, that helps you to go move forward. It's also interesting if we compare the 10 of Wands here and like that chaos, that tangled up mess, to this 9 of Wands, where it's like drastically different. It looks much more organized. It's not as tangled up as this. And I feel like you do that. Like, you somehow make things that even are difficult, even burdensome, you make them work for you in some way. And I feel like you encourage other people to do the same thing, even if you don't outrightly say it, simply through setting this example here. You show people that they don't have to stay stuck in chaos. They don't have to live their life in chaos completely. That there's another way. There is ways for us to work out these complications, to make these burdens less burdensome. Yeah, you really do set a really good example here for other people to follow. There is one goose flying overhead. Maybe it's a duck, but it looks like a goose to me. I'll enter that significance when I'm editing. Okay, let's break out the oracle, see if there's any additional messages. Please and thank you, Spirit. Any additional messages for the collective for this reading? Please and thank you. Or any advice, any additional messages related to the topic or not? Ooh, okay, let's see what we have. Ooh. So, the first one that came out is watering can. This represents asking for help and sharing burdens. Ooh. You show people that it's not a bad thing to ask other people for help, that maybe it's a good thing. Maybe community building is the answer. You show people that that is maybe necessary, or that that is a good thing. Sharing burdens. There's something about this that screams, we're all in this together, which is making me think of the High School Musical song, so I'll put that in. But yeah, you have this team mindset. Like if somebody is struggling, they don't have to struggle alone. And, you know, if you're blessed, everybody's blessed. You know, things along those lines. You're very helpful, though. People see you as a very helpful human. I feel like you also just genuinely try to be helpful because you believe in that, you know, showing up like that. Yeah. And I think that you get a lot of happiness out of helping others. I think it gives you a sense of fulfillment, a sense of purpose. And I feel like you've been able to see the difference that it makes helping others. You know, it helps to improve their life. It helps to improve your own life. And then we have sage. This represents wisdom, purification, and harmony. I think you have a lot of wisdom and you like to share that, but you know, at the same time, you're not like forcing information down people's throats. But if somebody asks you a question, of course you're going to answer it. And maybe the answers you have are like way, you know, more wise and meaningful, impactful than they realized that they would be. Purification. I feel like you have purified something within you, maybe yourself, your life, in the harmony. I think you believe in harmony. You believe in harmony of the collective, you know? Like we can work together, we can build things together, we can do beautiful things if we work together, if we have the right intentions, if we have the necessary knowledge. You're just really a great example for other people to follow, truly. And then we have the spring card. This represents rebuilding, awakening, and rebirth. Yeah. You have rebuilt your life in a way that is significantly different than your past, compared to your past. You also have spiritually awakened. And I feel like you share that with others. You inspire other people to become awakened. And then the rebirth. I think you show people that they don't have to stay, you know, in a certain energy, such as like maybe if somebody has been living their life in a way they're not proud of, it is possible to become a different person. It is possible to press the restart button starting today, you know? We don't have to let our past define who we are today. You show this to people. You show people that they are way more than just their mistakes and their failures. It's beautiful. I just feel like you are such a reassuring energy for people. And it's like you are who they need, you know? Like I think the world really does need you because you are changing people's minds, and this is all for the betterment of their life, but also the world. humanity. Bottom of the deck is the Moon card, and this represents phases, cycles, and intuition. Yeah. Incredibly intuitive you are. You've also been through so many phases and cycles in your life. You've learned so many different lessons. You've been stuck in certain cycles that maybe you were stuck in until you finally figured out how to, escape from those things, or to grow, to learn, to ask life for something more. Because that's another thing too, is like sometimes we stay stuck in certain cycles because we think that's all we deserve. But I feel like you have faced those things and you have said, I deserve better. I believe I deserve better. And now you just don't tolerate those things like you used to. And you also don't stay stuck like you used to. Part of that is probably coming from that self-worth, self-confidence that you've gained through experiences in life. Yeah. You just are an amazing person, and I hope you know this. And I hope you know that you are here for a reason. And your reason for being here is huge and impactful. And it will change the world. You have that in you to do great things. Yeah. Okay. So that is the reading. I really hope that you enjoyed this. If it resonated at all, feel free to like, comment, share, and subscribe. If you subscribe, you can become a part of the Hive Collective, because my name is Bee. Bees live in hives, and you can become an honorary bee like me, and we can be a little bee family together. If you like my readings and you'd like to see more, be sure to click that bell icon down below so that YouTube actually notifies you the next time that I upload. Thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate you, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. Bye.